Okay. Now we're on lesson 5. Has anyone learned anything new yet? You're coming back, so that's a very, very good thing. So in lesson 1, we'll just do a really, really quick review. You learned how amazing the human body was. And not just any human body, yours. Whether you felt like it at lesson 1 or not, your body is doing such amazing things, and there's such amazing capability and intelligence running through your body every minute. So the potential that was there is huge. And lesson 1, we walked through all of the things that are going on, the cellular regeneration, how the disease processes that we've been told for a long, long time that they're genetic, actually, these disease processes are not somehow just written into our history. They're not just handed down by our family and just going to pop out when we're 40 or 50 and, kill us like they maybe have done to previous family members or previous generations. We have a lot of control over that. So in lesson 1, I'm hoping that it changed the way that you think about the potential of your body. Lesson 2, we talked about kind of the basics of how nutrition interacts with your body and your body's cells and how important those major macronutrients were. We learned how important protein was. You all remember how important amino acids are? Remember, they're the building blocks of your body. And then when we talked about fats and how we've kind of been led to believe that the fat is this dangerous thing that clogs up our arteries and causes us to gain weight and all of these things. And actually, there is the scientific proof that has come out and tried to show that has been overturned over and over and over again, showing that fat is actually vital. It's vitally important to our body systems, to our hormone production, and the synthesis of some of the most important vitamins in the body, vitamins A, D, E, and K. And then we learned carbohydrates needed to be reduced because they weren't necessarily essential, and that was an important lesson. And then we have, when it came to lesson 3, you learned about food sourcing. So when we talk about food sourcing, we're actually talking about now not just saying beef is beef, or not just saying I'm going to eat a sandwich and thinking that we can mean the same thing. There's actually all kinds of different sandwiches we could be eating. There's different meat that's going in that sandwich, or those vegetables could have come from a completely different source. So that we're now looking for locally sourced things, and we're making sure that the vegetables are being grown the way that we like. Making sure that they're not exposed too much to chemicals or pesticides or insecticides or anything that we don't want on our food. And now that you know that there's foods that have been grown differently, you can now make that choice, right? If you didn't know before, now you know. And if you're okay with foods having that stuff on them, then that's perfectly fine. But the main thing is once you know, then you can make that call. Okay? Lesson 4, we went through meal planning. How many of you have started to develop a meal planning process in your home now? You went through the cupboards and everything when we talked about food sourcing, and you started to eliminate some things. And I know some of you are doing the old, I'm using it up. Even though I told you not to do that. That's okay. You can do that. It's your choice. But lesson 4, we talked about actually getting into the process of starting to meal plan. Developing that strategy. So today what we're going to do is we're going to run through what is a lot less of a technical lesson than we've talked about previously. Today we're going to run through some of the tricks of the trade and some of the tips on how to make this whole food lifestyle thing a little bit more convenient, a little bit more fast, and a little easier, a little more efficient. All right, so that's what we're going to start out with today. So open up your workbooks to the beginning of lesson 5, which is called Top Chef. And we're going to be talking cooking prep, recipes, and smart ways to master whole foods. So first and foremost, we're looking at whole food preparation. And whole food preparation is obviously an important part of any healthy lifestyle. We kind of touched on this last week, and I could see people like, oh, man, that I said, I've never found an alternative to whole food. I haven't found a way to accomplish the health goals that I have, or the health goals that the patients I've worked with in the past, or you guys have, the health goals you have. I haven't found an alternative to working with whole foods, because working with whole foods is one of the most basic, foundational, and most powerful ways to start reaching your health goals. So this lesson on preparation is obviously very, very important, because if we're going to talk about using them and tell you that using them is important, we probably better help you find out some ways to get them into your meal plan a little easier and to work with them a little bit more efficiently. So without whole foods, it is literally impossible to reach your greatest level of health. You will not be able to accomplish the best health you can unless you are eating whole foods on a day-to-day basis. You could be doing everything else right on a day-to-day basis, and if you are not consuming whole foods in your meal plan, you will be missing it. You will be missing it a little bit at least. Okay? Preparation is the strategy of breaking down and combining whole foods and ingredients for cooking and consumption to support your goals for life and health. You notice most of the time, you just think about time in the kitchen and cooking and how much time it's going to take and how you don't like to cook and all this other stuff. But you never think about the second part of this while you're saying that. And believe me, I've done it too. But the reason that people turn this into a lifestyle is because they think every time they get into the kitchen, they realize that the reason I'm doing this is because it's going to support the goals that I have in my life and my health. Remember, we all talked about the health goals that we have? You all wrote them down because we gave you time to do it right here. And you have goals in your health, and you have goals in your life. You've got professional goals, you have career goals. And we've agreed, at least mostly, we have agreed that what you eat absolutely 100% directly affects your ability to accomplish the goals that you have in life. You can't have a career goal and think that somehow what you eat is not affecting how you perform in your career. So preparation, when we talk about whole foods, preparation is the action that it takes to get this lifestyle moving, to start working on getting whole foods in your life, which the whole foods are what are going to help you get to the goals that you have for your life and your health. Direct connection. Okay. Food preparedness. This is kind of these are the three things that in most of the time working with people and kind of hearing their stories and hearing the reasons that they have challenges with whole foods. These are probably some of the main reasons that we've run into. So number one, having bad tasting food as youngsters and causing us to believe that the specific food we remember as something that we do not like at all. How many people have a food that they can think of that they were force-fed as a youngster that they still won't eat? A lot. And what we have to think about in this situation is not necessarily having to put all of those foods back into the meal plan, but thinking about if that food now, as a grown-up, if that food is cooked differently or if it's prepared well, maybe it wasn't cooked so well. It's okay, your mom may not have been the best cook of Brussels sprouts. Steamed Brussels sprouts are a lot different than roasted Brussels sprouts. They taste very different. So whatever food that is, maybe it was prepared in a way that you didn't like it. And realize that you can try these foods, you can try to reintroduce some of these foods if they're cooked and prepared differently. So trying things again. Also realize that the very physiology of your mouth, your taste buds, change over time. And I've worked with people who they would absolutely despise vegetables. And within 3 weeks of starting to move towards more whole foods, and not even necessarily force-feeding themselves vegetables, but just starting to clear out some of the junk from their diet and getting rid of the artificial sweeteners and things like that, and just getting rid of some of that extra stuff, it cleaned up their palate, and eventually they started to like some of those foods that they didn't like before. So realize that the actual physiology of taste in your mouth can change. So some of those foods that you had way back when, you can try to start reintroducing those types of things. Number 2, for whatever reason, a lot of people do not have skills in the kitchen. And you know who I'm talking about here. You guys, some of you lack knife skills. Some of you, when you think about making something, you absolutely have to have a recipe in front of you, and you have to read each line like 3 times to make sure you've gotten it right. We've all been there. You have to start somewhere. But if you don't have the skills right now to work quickly or work fast and efficient in the kitchen, it's definitely going to slow down your time, and working with whole foods in your lifestyle is going to take a lot of your energy and a lot of focus. But you need to realize that over time, as you practice, it will get a lot easier. Whole food prep gets a lot easier. You work with the knife long enough, make sure you have some Band-Aids, but you work with the knife long enough, you're going to get fast. You'll get a lot faster. You'll double, you'll triple your speed, and you'll be able to cut back your prep time from 15 minutes to 5. And if you're committed to the goals that you have in your health, you'll realize that knife skills are going to get you to your health goals. Never thought of that before, but anything you do in the kitchen, anything you do more efficiently, is going to help you get to your health goals faster. So we all need to realize that cooking is just like any skill. You must practice it. And here it says, fail many times to gain knowledge. I like to look at it as successfully finding out another way for it not to work. So if you burn something, you successfully found out a way that that food is not going to taste good. You successfully found out that that heat was too high. Just look at it that way. Throw the food away, grab a pack of beef sticks, and laugh about it. Try again tomorrow night. It's that simple. You're going to find a lot of ways to successfully not do things. And you can use those lessons to learn how to do it better next time. And eventually you'll get the perfect steak. And you'll get the perfect roast. And you'll get the perfect pot of stock. And you'll get the perfect pot of chicken soup. And you will start creating foods that you only dreamed of having when you went to restaurants. Or you really liked going over to a certain friend's house because they made this certain dish that you love so much. And you realize that, oh my gosh, now you're the person with those skills. And you can make any dish you want. You don't even necessarily need to have a recipe to do it. These are the skills that you'll develop as you practice. Also, one of the big things that people overlook is the tools in the kitchen. So there's a lot of you lack the actual tools to work with whole foods in your kitchen. So if you lack those tools, it's gonna take you a lot longer to prepare these foods. How many of you have ever connected a food processor to your high cholesterol or blood pressure? If you have a food processor, you're going to be able to produce whole foods way faster, and you'll eat more whole foods, and you will be able to fix a lot of the health problems you have. But you never thought about how investing in a food processor would actually help you get to your goal of reducing your medication. Any investment that you make in your kitchen or in a whole food preparation tool is going to help get you one step closer, if not 2 or 3 steps closer to the health goals you have. Does that make sense? The more tools that you have in your kitchen that are going to help you be faster and more efficient, the better you're going to be at it. Okay? So here is kind of a core. These are some core areas that we see in the kitchen that if you have if you have these areas locked down, you're in really good shape. We've got the Cuisinart blender down here. This one's a 12 cup. They go up to 16 cups. You can do a lot of whole food in one quick whirl of a 16-cup Cuisinart blender or food processor. And this processor will last you for years. You'll spend a little bit more on it up front, but remember, every time you buy a kitchen utensil, you're investing in your health. You buy a cheap utensil, you're going to be buying more of them more often. It's worth just buying the good stuff. On the right down there, the Vitamix is our favorite blender. Those of you who have Vitamixes realize that it's like starting up a boat in your own home. You plug that thing in, it's actually rated in horsepower. I think there's commercials of it like blending up a spoon or something like that. Thing's crazy. You can make soup in it. It'll actually heat it up to almost boiling. And you just throw the tomato, the celery, maybe a little pepper in there or something like that, and boom, it'll make tomato soup. You leave the stems on and everything. But the Vitamix is another one of those tools that is invaluable in our household. We use it all the time. And it helps us get whole foods together extremely quickly. Because if we want to make applesauce, we just throw apples in. I don't even need to cut them. Stems, core, seeds, everything. You blend that applesauce up, 45 seconds later you have applesauce. You can't tell it. You can't tell it was a real apple, a whole apple. But the nice thing is then you're making your own applesauce. You actually save some money by not going and buying applesauce, by making your own. And you actually now have a raw applesauce instead of one in the store that they have to pasteurize. So you have more enzyme and more nutrient content. So these are how these utensils pay themselves off. The crock pot in the middle, the slow cooker. How many people have experience with being able to set it in, and forget it in the beginning of the morning and come back and having a meal waiting for you, filling the aroma filling up your entire house? Is that not a de-stressor? I mean, after you've done everything during the day, you've got that meal waiting for you. And you sit down to it, and it's almost like someone else cooked it. Because you prepared it, 8 hours ago, 9 hours ago, and you don't even remember. The slow cooker is a big one. Pots and pans. This is one that we are very, very passionate about. Does anyone know about Teflon? What happened to Teflon here recently? It was basically banned from being produced anymore. But the federal government gave companies 5 years to sell it off. So they readily acknowledged that it was so dangerous that it could no longer be produced and sold. But then they went ahead and they're going to massively sell it off. And you'll see the advertising for it. You'll see Pots and Pan advertising like crazy this Christmas. You've got a lot of heavy metals and chemicals being leached into your food from your pans. And we just went over food sourcing, and you're now taking more time and effort and putting more intention into what foods are in your home. And then you're going to bring them home, and you're going to put them on a pan, and you're going to hope that that pan is not somehow putting a bunch of toxic fumes and chemicals into your food. Those of you who have nonstick pans, you'll want to phase them out quick. You don't want to use nonstick pans for long, because pans translate minerals. We used to have cast iron pans in our house the cast iron pan we had was 60 years old, handed from generations. I didn't throw it away. I'm going to keep it for memory's sake, but I'm not going to cook on it anymore either. Because they're one of the worst culprits. You talk about how a cast iron pan seasons. Basically, all the food that's been cooked over 60 years, and it's this layer on this pan. And every time you fire it up, you've got carcinogens and metals just bubbling up into your food. So pots and pans are a very, very important thing here. Our favorite are titanium 316 Ti Salad Master pans. They're basic. It's the same titanium that's used in joint replacements and in screws and bones and things like that. And the reason they use it for those things is because it's been proven to not leach into human tissue, which means when you cook with it, it doesn't leach into food either. So pots and pans to us are one of the top areas that you want to invest in your kitchen utensils. And then your kitchen containers, your stainless steel bowls and things like this. You want to make sure that you're using things that aren't chipping off and things like that. So we kind of have phased out the use of wooden bowls and things because a lot of those wooden bowls are actually treated. That's how they stay good for a long time, is they're treated. So you don't want to be putting a salad in a wooden bowl that's been treated with stuff. Does that make sense? So we want to look at these kitchen utensils. We want to make sure that these kitchen utensils are helping us and not hurting us. And this is kind of one of the reasons why we don't necessarily recommend grilling a lot, is because the grill's kind of the same way. And we'll hit the actual cooking methods here a little bit later. So the goal of the lesson, as you can get up to this point, you can kind of tell, is to teach the tips and skills for making whole food preparation a lot more convenient and to build a lifestyle around it. So this is bringing whole food preparation into your current lifestyle, opposed to you jumping out of your lifestyle into a diet, into the next thing that you're going to try to see if you can do it for long enough. We want to bring preparation into your current lifestyle, and these tools will help you to start working whole foods in. Because we can't get to the goals that we have without whole foods, right? Okay,